Good evening. I see we have 4 in class, and I'll just begin. We shall not wait. I'll first of all preview what we last looked at and make some clarifications before I proceed. We had a presentation on alphabetical-classed catalogs after the classified catalogs. And now I've created one catalog that we can look at as an example before we move to something new today. I hope my sound is okay. If it is okay, then we can proceed. If you can see my screen, I'll first stop the share and then share again to be sure that everybody can see my screen. If it is viewable, I can play the slide. These were the divisions, the major divisions that we had. There was chemistry as the major, physics, library and information science, and economics. But I've picked 3: chemistry, physics, and library and information science to create an alphabetical classed catalog. And when you look at the example I've generated, the major subdivisions are the ones which are classed. In that, I've arranged the major subdivision using the class numbers, and then the subordinate classes or divisions are arranged alphabetically. Because they don't fit on one screen, I've given each major division on its own slide with the subordinates arranged alphabetically. So the 3 major subdivisions arranged in a classed way. We have 020, library and information science, and under it, arranged alphabetically, we have cataloging, classification, general libraries, library operations, personnel management, reading, reference service, and special libraries. So from 020, we'll move to 530, which is physics. And under physics, we have electricity, fluid mechanics, gas mechanics, heat, light, magnetism, modern physics, solid mechanics, and sound. And lastly, in our alphabetical classed catalog, we have 540 chemistry, and the subordinates arranged alphabetically. We have analytical chemistry, crystallography, inorganic chemistry, mineralogy, organic chemistry, and physical chemistry. So that is an example of an alphabetical classed catalog where the major divisions are arranged in a classed way and the subordinate divisions are arranged alphabetically. What is missing would be providing the class numbers for the subordinates after the subject at the end would provide that. So that is what I wanted to clarify, meaning that now you are in position to look at the other alternative where the major divisions are alphabetically arranged and the subordinates are arranged using the class numbers. So briefly, that is what we covered. And when we do that, we remember this catalog, just like the classified catalog, will need to prepare an alphabetical index. So all the subordinates and the major divisions have been arranged alphabetically in one sequence, starting from analytical chemistry, going down to library science, then continuing library operations to special libraries. So that makes it easy for our users to get what they want. So analytical chemistry, when they see that it is available, they will have a class number there such that they can locate it on the shelves. So briefly, that ends what we did when we last met. I will now move to today's presentation. After I confirm that everybody is on board. We are still few, but it doesn't matter. We shall continue. Those who are present, it is fine. Today, I want to look at levels of description in an entry, and also to alert you that in case you have a question, you go to Q&A, that is question and answer. You type your question and then I'll respond. Levels of description in an entry, what does this mean? We have levels at which we catalog, and those are the levels we need to look at before we continue with our practical cataloging. There are 3 recommended levels of description, each containing those elements that must be given as a minimum by libraries. So depending on what level you want to catalog, you can make a decision depending on the users of the library. Is the catalog for locating books or is it for research? If it is for just locating books, then maybe you could catalog or describe those documents at the first level. So let us look at those levels. You base the choice of a level of description on the purpose of the catalog for which the entry is constructed. So if the purpose of the catalog is for just locating documents, then the first level will suffice. If it is for research or for a research library and also higher institutions of learning, then you will go and describe up to the 3rd level. Include the following set of elements for all items cataloged at the chosen level when the elements are applicable to the item being described. So whatever we shall use to describe the item will depend on the level you have chosen, if those elements are applicable to that particular item. First level. The first level is the level at which school libraries and small libraries, for that matter, we normally describe at the first level. And for the first level, we shall include at least the following elements. The title proper, is normally the main title of the book. Then the first statement of responsibility. We can have books which have more than one statement of responsibility, but at the first level, we shall record or transcribe the first statement of responsibility. Next element to include is the addition statement. And then if area 3 applies, we shall give the material or type of publication specific details. Remember, that is an area for non-book materials, and we have not handled those. But if you have decided to catalog at the first level, then area 3 must be included. The next element is the first publisher. Even if the item has a second publisher, at the first level, we shall just capture the first publisher and, of course, the place of publication and the date of publication. Next element is the extent of the item, where we record the pagination, and normally it is the Roman pages and Arabic pages. And of course, in the extent of item, we also mention the dimension or size of the item in centimeters. After the extent of the item, we move to the notes or the note area. And for the examples we have so far, this is where we record whether the book has a bibliography or references, index, appendices, and such other details which do not fit in the previous areas. Lastly, at the first level, we shall include the standard number, which is normally for books the international standard book number, and for serial publications, it is the international serial standard number. And with these elements that are included, we'll conclude by giving an example or showing a book which has been catalogued at the first level. So the next example illustrates the first level of description. This is the main entry. The class number is 025.32, and the book was written by Ikoja Odong, that is the surname, with the initials JR, which means the book number is IKO. IKO coming from what we have selected to be the heading of the entry. Since it is a book for area O, we record the term text starting from second indentation. If I is on the first indentation, assume my T is on the second indentation, and though it could even be maybe a bit, maybe under K, but that is what I opted for. The title of the book, starting from the second indentation, processing library materials. So this is the title proper. After the title proper, you leave a space, / space, you record the first statement of responsibility. In other words, who wrote the book? The author. And this author name is recorded or transcribed in exactly the same layout as given on the title page. You remember the canon of ascertainability. So JR Ikoja Odong is what we record, and that is what was given on the title page. It is the first edition, though the edition statement is not given clearly on the title page, but we establish that this is the first edition of that book. And since that information is picked from outside the chief source of information, we shall enclose it in these square brackets. Place of publication, after space, full stop, space, dash, space, is Kampala. Space, colon, space, the publisher is Islis. You apply a comma for the we had an option of continuing on that line, but I opted to open a new paragraph there, starting on the second indentation. 8 Roman pages. And 70 from page 65 to 66. It also has a glossary from we had a challenge there with the connection. I'll have to share my screen one more time before we proceed. So it went off, the net went off, and now I have to go back to the slide. So that is the main entry. You will notice that there is no tracing, simply because we are cataloging at the first level. What this means is that whoever wants to access this book, they must know the author. In that, for this library, they only have an author catalog. So you must know the author of the book that you need. Why? There is no added entry for title or subject. And that, of course, is a challenge if someone doesn't know who wrote the book. But in addition to the main entry, we shall also prepare the author reference added entry, which I display. So whoever wants this book, check we have been having those interruptions. I hope now everybody is getting the communication. I'll share my screen one more time, and then we proceed. Okay, that was the reference added entry. Moving to the second level of description. For the second level, we shall include the elements set out below. Area O is a must, and then we start the other elements. Title proper. Every book must have a title proper. Then parallel title. This is not a must, but normally the parallel title is the title proper, but in another language. Before specifying the parallel title, the punctuation device is an equal sign. Of course, there is space before and space after. Next element after a space, colon space, is other title information. After forward slash, we give the first statement of responsibility. At the second level, we have to provide each subsequent statement of responsibility. So whereas at the first level, we only give the first statement of responsibility, at the second level, we shall also give each subsequent statement of responsibility. And this is given by applying this punctuation device, which is a space, semicolon, space. Next element after space, full stop, space, dash, space, is the addition statement. Unlike at the first level, after the addition statement, we also give first statement of responsibility relating to addition. We shall get examples of publications which have this statement of responsibility relating to addition. Next area is area 3, material or type of publication specific details. This applies to non-book is first place of publication. Of course, when we give the first place of publication, we shall also give the publisher. That is the first publisher next, then the date of publication, and other details that apply. Extent of item, where we mention the pagination, and after that we shall give other physical details. The other physical details include the dimension and the accompanying material. If a book has a DVD, then that is accompanying material. And then the dimensions come after the other physical details, and that is after a space, semicolon, space. And after the dimensions or the size of the document, we go to the series area, and the punctuation device we use is a space, full stop, space, dash, space. And then in these parentheses, you will notice that it starts from here and ends here. That is where we give the series information. And unlike the books we have cataloged so far, this second level of description requires you to give title, proper of series, statement of responsibility in relation to the series, ISSN of series. At least we have been stopping there, but now we continue to give ISSN of series, numbering within the series. After full stop, we give title of sub-series, isection of subseries, and then numbering within subseries. So you can see at the second level of description, the details or the elements we provide are more compared to the first level. And after the series area, we move to the notes or the note area. And lastly, the standard number. And of course, at the second level, the tracing area will also be provided. Leave alone, I did not capture that. I'll put it there. Tracing area, normally there is no punctuation given before starting the tracing area. But I need to document it such that we are not misled. So I've typed that there, that the tracing area will also be included at the second level. Lastly, an example to illustrate the previous book cataloged at the second level. I'll just mention what has been added that wasn't there. After the title proper, this book had other title. Now it is appearing. Why? When I go back, you will see that the book doesn't have a parallel title, but it has other title. So what doesn't apply, we just omit for a particular book. So it did not have a parallel title. I sent away and noted the other title, which is a user's manual. Statement of responsibility is JR Ekojodong. That one we saw earlier. So other than the other title, what is included for that book is the tracing area, that is the subject, cataloging, and then an added entry for the title that needs to be prepared. So whereas we add many details at the second level, they don't apply to this book. So we just omit those areas. So after the main entry, we shall look at the subject added entry and title added entry, and lastly, the author reference added entry. Subject added entry is displayed. The subject appears as the heading, but in capital letters. Where do we get this subject from? From the Sears list. And you'll notice that I've highlighted it by putting it in bold. That is for emphasis. You don't need to bold that heading. Then in the tracing area, you notice that now what was written as title, the actual title has been transcribed in full. So those are the two differences between the main entry and the subject added entry. This title is in full, and then the heading is the subject in capital letters. So what comes next is the title added entry. I'll move to the next slide, which is the title added entry. The title now is the heading, processing library materials, and this heading starts from the second indentation. And I display the rest of the content, and you allow me shift this up. So that is how the title added entry would look like. The title doesn't appear in the tracing anymore because it is this very entry. And lastly, for this book, at the second level, of description, we still have the author reference added entry. So briefly, those are the first and second level of description. Lastly, we need to look at the last level, which is the third level of description. And for this level, every detail of the book that is available shall be used. For the third level of description, include all elements set out in the rules that are applicable to the item being described. So any information which requires you to describe the book will be included such that this book gets to its intended user. I have questions. Maybe I need to answer this. Melinda says, what are series and volume and edition difference? Series mainly. Series, I will explain later using an example. Volumes normally appear on magazines. And I'm answering this live. What are series? I'm repeating this. Series are titles or publications published under a given theme. Volumes or volume applies normally to periodicals or serial publications. These are normally newsletters, bulletins, magazines, or journals. And this volume is normally captured in area 3, which doesn't apply to books. And edition, normally when there is new information which was not included previously in a particular book, when that book is updated, then it becomes a new edition. And message, what does parallel title mean? For message, I'll type a title proper, Pearl of Africa, and then I'm giving you a parallel title. Pearl of Africa is Uganda. That is one example. A second example, I'll type a title, how to divorce peacefully. Now, the translation of this in your language will be the parallel title. I don't know what your language is. I'll just translate it in vernacular, which I think I know. And that is in Uganda, okwa ukana mu mirembe. Okwawukana mu bufumbo, mu bufumbo. Sorry, mu mirembe. So that is the example I can give. My vernacular might not be so okay, but this is the title proper, and then this will be the parallel title. So the parallel title is the title proper, but given in another language. So those were the questions. I hope I've answered them satisfactorily. I now move to the next slide. Phyllis was also asking the same. What is a parallel title, please? Richard was not seeing anything being typed. I don't know why that. Okay, Richard, on your screen, maybe it is not coming out well. There is a Q and A. I wasn't typing in the chat. I was typing in that Q question and answer window. Maybe next time I'll be typing in the chat. Melindra, you write appendix with the question marks. Appendix are those materials inserted in a book which are not part of the main text, but are useful to the reader. For instance, maps. We could have tables. If there are many, we attach them at the end of the book. And that is, or those are what we refer to as appendices. And then I think I'm done with those questions. I'll now move, I'll stop that share and move to the next presentation, which I want to be sure that this we are done, and then we move to the next. Yeah, indeed, this we are done. I'll go and pick something new, which I believe everybody is familiar with. So our next presentation is about kinds of entries. I want to be sure that everybody can see my screen. So allow me to remove what we are not using. So I'm sharing my screen again. So kinds of entries, we have gone through these slides. So we shall not spend a lot of time. What do we mean by kinds of entries? Those that we prepare when we are cataloging a publication. And we note that a library catalog consists of various unit records, and those records are referred to as entries. And the rules, those are the Anglo-American cataloging rules, second edition. They provide for the main entry, added entries, and references. The main entry is the complete catalog record of a document or of a bibliographic entity. The main entry includes the tracings or the added entries, all under which the record is to be prepared in the catalog. So let us get more info about the main entry. This is the basic entry, and each document must have one main entry, and this is usually an author entry. If you recall, Ikojo Dong was the author, and therefore that was the main entry heading. But we shall be seeing some documents that have the title as the main entry, and those we shall see next semester. The tracing area indicates headings under which added entries have been prepared for a given document. For Ekoja's book, we saw there was a heading for the subject, which was cataloging, and also there was a heading for the title, but we shall see more examples. In this example, we now look at the main entry. This book we have seen earlier. I'm just emphasizing what a main entry looks like. So you can see in this main entry, whereas there are two authors, Tony Conford and Stephen Simpson, the first author took the main entry. And the second author indicated in the tracing area, we make an added entry. But in addition to that, we have subject added entry. We have 2 of them before the second author name, then the editor, title, and series. So this is how a main entry would look like. Area O, text. Title proper is Project Research and Information Systems. Other title is Student's Guide. Statement of responsibility after this / with the spaces. Tony Conford, Steve Simpson. Place, the first place of publication, Hampshire. We utilize this paragraph. Year of publication is the copyright year 1996. Place of printing, Great Britain, and the name of the printer, Anthony Rowe. And this information is enclosed in parentheses, these brackets. The next paragraph, which is starting from the second indentation, indicates that this book has 11 Roman pages, 177 Arabic pages. It has illustrations which are black and white, and the dimension is 23 centimeters. Unlike Ekoja's book, this has a series area. And one of the questions was, what is a series? So the title of the series is Information Systems Series, which is edited by I.O. Angel. It means that this title, Project Research, is published in a series which is titled Information Systems Series. It is like the theme that they write about is information systems. So whoever publishes under that series is writing about information systems. And so this book, Project Research in Information Systems, is one of the many books published or titles published in this series. Next, note area, bibliographic references. It also has an index, standard book number, and then the tracing area below, where it means that we have these added entries to prepare. But this is how a main entry looks like. Added entries. This is an entry additional to the main entry, under which a document is represented in a catalog. The purpose of added entries is to make sure that the library users get the books they need, even though they don't know the author. Because the main entry goes to the author, we prepare added entries, which are other access points for one to get the book. The added entries supplement the main entry by providing additional access points to documents listed in the catalog. Added entries are prepared for subordinate authors like joint authors, editors, translators, and illustrators. So by subordinate authors, we are looking at the joint authors. Who else participated in writing the book. So that person will get an added entry. Then editors, we have seen for this particular example, Angel is an editor of the series. And of course, translators and others will get added entries. We also prepare added entries for the title, subject, and series. So we look at the sample added entries, starting with this first subject. You will notice that for this subject, which is information systems, it appears as the heading in capital letters, but starting from the second indentation. And then because of the canon of consistency, whatever we see from this point up to Angel I.O., we add it on the main entry, except that number 3 here, which is the title, it has been written in full, and number 4, the series has been written in full. Another subject added entry, a book can have more than one subject. And indeed, this add a second subject, which is information systems - research. So the rest of the content is as seen in the previous entries. The second author also has an entry. The name appears as the heading for the second author, whom we had here in the body. And since there are other details after the name here, we shall still leave that name in the tracing area. Moving to the next, that is the series editor. In case someone wanted to access this book using the series editor, they will still get the book. So that name appears as the heading. Remember, this series editor is appearing in the series area. And that is why we made a provision for an added entry in the tracing. Next is the title added entry. You will notice that the title is written in small letters, except of course the P there and the A in the other title. What you need to note that for me, I wrote the title proper and the other title because I had space. But normally, because we want to be economical, writing the title proper alone would be sufficient. But in case your title and other details continue to the next line, you still start from the second indentation. So guide is starting from the second indentation. And still our title for this example is appearing in the tracing area. Why? It wasn't the last element. Lastly, series added entry. Still the series title starts from the second indentation. It is also written in small letters. But you will notice that it was the last element and you don't repeat it now because it is the very entry. It is not tracing anywhere else. So it is the very entry, therefore we remove it from the tracing area. So in addition to those added entries, we need to prepare the reference entries. Reference is a direction from one heading or entry to another. And we have a C reference, which directs the user from the name of a person or of a corporate body or the title of a work or subject under which the library user might be expected to search to the form that has been chosen by the cataloger as a heading or as a uniform title. So in case someone was looking for Tony, we have prepared a C reference. which will direct the user from Tony to the surname that we used. So let us get examples. A C also reference directs the user from one heading to a related heading. C has a list of subject headings, has more details on subject references. And the author reference added entry for our example. You are looking for Tony Comfort. We refer you to the main entry heading, which was Comfort Tony. And please note that comma. This comma means that Comfort is the surname. Next, the joint author, Steve Simpson, whereas it is still letter S, you go to Steve looking for this book. We shall refer you to Simpson, Steve, because this is the surname for which we prepared an added entry. Then next is the editor. Some people think in one way. They read the name and they will also look for that name the way it is, starting with the initials. So this person goes to letter I in the catalog. We shall refer them that, no, you go to letter A, which is Angel, the surname. So those are the added entries, but I've decided to give another example where I show you the main entry, the added entries, and the reference added entries. So this is a book which I will encourage you to pick and read. And I've seen one of your colleagues, they borrowed the book, and it is the book where you'll find a lot of what we have so far learned. I need to edit something in this entry. It is not aligned properly. This book, titled Theory and the Practice of Cataloging, has details of inner forms of catalogs and all other theoretical work we have looked at so far. So please find the time and access it. So the main entry, I'll display it as the second example of demonstrating how a main entry looks like. Job is the surname, and that is why our book number is Job. I see Stephen says they can't hear anything. Is that true? Then Stephen is raising his hand. I don't know what the problem is, but I know the volume is on. Cyan, in sequential, what do we consider? Mlindwa Dennis, when we are arranging documents in a sequence, we use the alphabet if it is an alphabetical catalog. If it is a classified catalog, then we shall use the class numbers to create the sequence. I'll go back to this example. If this is the main entry, it shows that we need to have a subject, added entry, and the title. So we look at the subject, and indeed, the subject added entry. The subject is the heading, starting from second indentation in capital letters. And then the title in the tracing has been written in full. We move to the title added entry. The title of the book appears as the heading of the entry in small letters except letter T. And since it is the very title and it was the end in the tracing area, we remove it. So the title added entry in this case was the last element here. It is removed. Lastly, we need a reference for job, and that is the author reference added entry. When you check in letter M, we refer you to letter J, and you find job, comma, So briefly for today, that is what I had for you. And in case you have questions, and Mulindwa Dennis, how do you arrange this in sequential order? And of course, they are all titles, that is according to what you have written. I will share my screen and hopefully everybody will be able to see. Share screen. I'll just pick on anything and then go back. So Mulindwa is asking you how you arrange this. This you arrange alphabetically. Yeah, there is expressive, it is E, there is kernel, analyzed, and transformed. So we are arranging alphabetically all these. So analyzed comes first, expressive second, kernel third, and transformed last. So that is the sequence. It is alphabetical sequence. And I believe that answers that question. Please, you go to the chat, type your email, and then we close today's meeting. So all you need, you go to the chat and please type right email addresses. I have had bouncing messages when I sent the videos. So please ensure you have typed the right one, and after typing, you exit. Please don't type other people's emails because you end up typing wrong things. And the record doesn't show that those people you are typing their emails were even present. So please just be honest, like the bishop who said the truth. So for today, we are done. Turn up was low. I know you had the tests, but we also needed to catalog. So just type your email. You leave the meeting, and I also close the meeting. Have a nice evening. Okay.